89% of business leaders say AI is a top priority. The right choice is crucial, which is why teams at 1/3 of Fortune 500 companies use Grammarly. Grammarly is the right AI assistant for your team. With top-tier security credentials and 15 years of experience in responsible AI, Grammarly is how companies like yours increase productivity while keeping data protected and private. See why 70,000 teams trust Grammarly at grammarly.com/enterprise.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The boxers have been given their instructions. The seconds are out. The crowd is ready for another edition of Shoulder Roll Virtual Boxing with your presenter, the boxing historian, Greg Rashid.
Well, I want to say swaddy krop to everyone out there. This is Greg Rashid with another edition of the Shoulder Roll Virtual Boxing Podcast. If you're new to the program, if you don't know, I'm in Bangkok, Thailand, and swaddy krop means hello in Thai. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day, night, evening, wherever you are in the universe listening to the show. And I want to say hi to everyone out there, especially to the folks who listen every Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. Mountain Time on KUHSdenver.com in Colorado, created by the one and only Henry Archuleta. And I want to say hi to all my friends in Colorado. I'm coming back there to visit. I definitely am. I keep saying it, but I'm coming back. But anyway, we're going to have, as always, a great show here. And we're just going to get into the fight right now. If you're new to the program, what we do here, we do fantasy fights, which means we use various computer programs, card and dice games. Today we're using Legends of Boxing 2, the PC game. And we also interview folks. We have talk about real fights, the history of boxing, and we sometimes play a little music. That's why we call this a boxing variety show. But right now, we're going to get to the main event, the fight itself. And this is a heavyweight division fight. And this is going to be Tommy Morrison versus Gerry Cooney. And we have as our favorite commentator, the one and only Knockout Nigel. Take it away, Knockout.
Cheers. This is Knockout Nigel, your humble commentator, reporting live from the Blue Horizon in Philadelphia. Tonight, we have an electrifying heavyweight bout between two formidable fighters, Gerry Cooney and Tommy Morrison. Gerry Cooney, known as Gentleman Gerry, has built a reputation as a powerful puncher, but with a chin. He is known for his left hook. On the other side of the ring, we have Tommy Morrison, known to carry knockout power in either hand and his ability to apply relentless pressure. It appears I have to apply plenty of pressure to open this Philly bubbly. Goodness, it is impossible to open. My good man, would you kindly this bubbly to the kitchen and have someone open it? The bell rings for round one, and the fight begins. Morrison wastes no time, trapping Cooney in the neutral corner. He lands a series of crisp punches that Cooney struggles to defend against. Cooney tries to fire back with a couple of weak left hooks, but they don't seem to have much effect. The round ends with Cooney staggering back to his corner, looking visibly shaken. The referee takes a close look, but decides to let the fight continue. The second round starts with Morrison rushing out of his corner, eager to capitalize on his momentum from the first round. Cooney slowly walks to ring center. He meets Morrison with a solid left hook that catches him off guard and sends him crashing to the canvas. Morrison gets up quickly at the count of 3, but he's clearly hurt. He is shaking his head, saying he is not hurt, but his legs are moving in different directions. Cooney, sensing an opportunity, connects with another left hook that lands flush on Morrison's chin. Morrison goes down again, and this time he doesn't get up. The referee waves off the fight at 1:21 minutes of the second round. The winner by knockout, Jerry Cooney. That was a shocking turn of events. What's that you say, my good man? The kitchen staff does not have the proper item to open my bubbly, but has instead offered me a Budweiser to take its place. Are you joking? My lips will not drink that rock gut. What do you take me for? Some commoner? I want my bubbly, and I want it now. I will now return you to our Bangkok studio. This is Knockout Nigel. Cheers. I would drink the bathwater of a swine before I partake of that insulting beverage.
Oh, my goodness. Did you hear? Oh, Knockout getting a little nasty there. But anyway, so he can't drink Budweiser. It's rock gut to him. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that fight. A quick one there between Jerry Cooney and Tommy Morrison. And I could see that actually happening. You know, Cooney was slow, but he had a great left hook. And Morrison, they both had bad chins. But I could see him knocking out Morrison. But anyway, we're going to get right now to some boxing news for the week. And we have our one and only Jessica, your martial arts champion. She'll give us the news of boxing history this week.
This is Jessica, your martial arts champion with your boxing history for the week of January 19th through January 25th. January 19th, 2008, Roy Jones Jr. defeated Felix Trinidad by unanimous decision. January 20th, 2001, Floyd Mayweather Jr. defeated Diego Corrales to defend his WBC super featherweight title. January 21st, 2006, Manny Pacquiao defeated Eric Morales for the super featherweight title in their second bout in one of the greatest boxing trilogies of all time. January 22nd, 1973, George Foreman became world heavyweight champion, defeating Joe Frazier. January 23, 1967, Emil Griffith retained the world middleweight title by defeating Joey Archer. January 24, 1976, George Foreman defeated Ron Lyle after being knocked down twice in round 4. January 25, 1939, Joe Louis retained the world heavyweight title by defeating John Henry Lewis.
Thank you, Jessica, for that history. And I got that Foreman-Lyle fight. I remember that so well because I was in the Ohio State University Student Union, and a group of us were watching it on what they called back then a big screen television, and it was a trip watching that, and everyone in there was just cheering and just laughing. We were having a good time. But that was if you haven't seen that fight, by the way, check it out. Go online and check that out. But anyway, we're gonna get to an interview now, a second interview in a row with Gary W. Brown, and he's the creator of Legends of Boxing 2, the PC game and the card and dice game, and also a creator of other games too. And his company is Stone Mountain Press, and I just really enjoy talking to Gary, and this is the second interview with him. We talk about a little more about his game and also about boxing in general. Hope you enjoy that on the Soul the Road Virtual Boxing Podcast. And I'm so happy to have on again Gary W. Brown, the CEO, the creator of Stone Mountain Press, and the creator of so many great games. And we're talking about Legends of Boxing 2, the card and dice and PC game. I'm just so happy to have him on. I got to tell Gary up front that usually I invite people on and they'll come on like in 6 months or a year later. You're the first person, I'm talking about over 20 years of doing shows like this, that I've had someone come on the week after I've interviewed them. And that's due to what you were saying last week, the interest online, and I'm just happy just to have you back on. So thank you so much, Gary. You're doing a first on my show.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, it felt like we had a lot of unfinished business. So this is really just a continuation of the first discussion.
Yes, it is. I'm going to get out of the way right now. Some of the questions that folks have asked me to ask you, starting with, and some of these you've already answered, but there are some folks who didn't hear the program, so the first program. So we're going to do this again. And also, my listeners who are listening every Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. Mountain Time on KUHS, I know some of the things Gary will say may not be familiar if you're not a gaming enthusiast, but we want you to be interested in this particular game, Legends of Boxing 2, because I use it on my program, as you know, for the fantasy fights, along with some other games. And maybe this interview will get you interested in, I want to look at that game. I want to see what it's all about. So anyway, let's get to some of these questions. One person asked, are you familiar with Championship Boxing, that game?
Yes. Yeah, I played that for a couple years. That was somewhere in my panic period, as I kind of refer to it, early aughts. It was about the same time I was starting to develop some ideas about Legends of Boxing. So to recap just a little, it was at that time that Title Bout tried to make a comeback. It didn't go over so well, and that looked like that was going to be it. And so I'm like, well, what else is out there, right? Naturally, and yeah, right. I had I believe there was a gentleman by the name of Kevin Taylor who revived Championship Boxing and brought it back, and yeah, that held me over for a little while. Okay.
The next question is, did you ever meet or have discussions with Julian Compton, Dr. Julian Compton of Data Boxing?
Well, I did. I didn't get the pleasure of meeting him. He was, I think he was already in fairly poor health by the time he found Legends of Boxing and then contacted me. And so we had an exchange of emails, and he ended up sending me PDFs of Data Boxing back in the day. And then I think he passed away probably no more than 6 or 9 months later.
Huh. Okay, the last question. You answered this one before, but we're going to ask it again. Will you be including more modern fighters in the next go-round of Legends of Boxing?
Well, yes. And I mean, if you look, well, I guess if you're not familiar, it doesn't matter. The current catalog of 99 fighters that's in the core game, probably 30 or 40 of those were new at about this time last year. And that's not to say they were new to the game. They weren't necessarily new up to date fighters, but we did include, Wilder and did we get AJ in there? I don't remember.
AJ is in there. Yes, I've done AJ. Yeah. AJ's in there.
Yeah.
Tyson Fury's in there.
Yeah, exactly. Those guys. So yeah, some of the big names we got in there. Usyk wasn't really, I mean, he was on the radar, but I wasn't really ready to rate him yet. I'm still not ready.
Okay.
To rate.
I can
rate
understand
him.
that.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little more from him before I set it in concrete.
Yeah, because I've seen people talking about, oh yeah, he's one of the all-time top 5 heavyweights of all time. I said, wait a minute, just hold it.
Usyk?
Yeah, I've seen this in a number of places online. I've seen some commentators saying that. And I'm not going to say those names, but I'm saying, wait a minute, do you know
Seriously?
boxing? Yes.
Wow. No.
Oh God, I mean, you got to check it out online. It's ridiculous, Gary. What some people are saying about him. I mean, they're putting him in the top 5. Some people actually comparing him to Ali. just ridiculous.
No, I don't know where that's coming from.
And if it was the fanboys, I would say, okay, they don't really know boxing. They just, they're just looking.
Oh, sorry about the noise.
No problem. No problem. Your dog is probably upset. Your dog is probably upset by that, by that too. To say,
Yes.
Usyk,
He's
my
very
goodness.
upset. Hey, you know what? Props to Usyk.
Yeah.
Again, I haven't seen either of the fights against Fury yet. But that's pretty impressive.
He's good.
But,
I mean, you got to really check out those fights. But on the other hand,
I know they were both good. I've seen some highlights.
Yeah.
But
on the other hand, this is not
Fury's.
He's not
I think
graded yet.
I think.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think Fury's on his. He's on the downhill slide now. So the Fury he's fighting now is not necessarily the same Fury of 3-4 years ago, right?
Right.
So that's one thing.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I don't know. I don't see, and I don't know. If people are saying that about Usyk, I mean, I wouldn't say that about Fury either. And
a year ago they were, until he fought.
Oh, were they?
Until he fought Francis Ngannou, and then there were questions when Ngannou knocked him down in the fight. But they were saying that. But they're saying that about Usyk, and there are just some well-known folks. And I would just say this: look at if you get a chance, just go online and check out like Ring Magazine, because it's online again now, and some other folks. Some well-known commentators who are like, they're just saying he's like one of the top 5. And I'm saying,
no,
not yet.
No. You know where that could be coming from, especially coming from pundits online. I think some of that is probably just hyperbole that's trying to help build the sport up. Because it's always been as the heavyweight division goes, so goes boxing, and so we had a little bit of a bump, right? And we had a little bit of a bump a few years ago with the Wilder Fury trilogy, and now here's the rise of Usyk, and I think they're trying to. It kind of reeks of desperation to me. To make those kind of claims.
It is on one end, but that brings up kind of something I wanted to lead into, and this question does, but your games, I mean, they're great, as I always say, but, Legends of Boxing, you're dealing with a very, very niche sport.
Yes.
And I can say that as someone, a boxing historian who's been doing this forever. It's a niche, and in America, it's not even on the, it's not even, sometimes not even in the sport pages anymore.
Right. Exactly. Well, I've got,
and Gary, how do you deal with that? The fact that, you created this great game knowing that it's a sport that's not really popular. It's not, we can compare it to like horse racing. Back before we were born, boxing and horse racing were like the huge things along with baseball.
Yeah.
But now it's different.
Well, let me tell you this. So, shortly before Usyk Fury 2, at one point last month, I kind of did an informal survey, and I was just kind of asking these sorts of questions of myself, and so I went around the web. I went to ESPN, Sporting News.
Right.
Sports Illustrated, CBS Sports, Fox Sports, to name most. Those are most of the ones I checked out. I think there's a couple others in there, and on all of those, well, I should say on about half of those, on their main menu, you look across and see the various sports categories. Boxing was not listed. UFC or MMA, those were listed, and usually fairly prominently, like around 5, 6, 7 in the ranking. And I think Sporting News was probably the only one that I remember that had a boxing link in their main menu. For the rest of those sites, you had to dig further. You had to scroll further down and find a larger index or something. If you wanted to go straight to a dedicated boxing page with updates and rankings and stuff like that, you had to dig for it. You couldn't find it just immediately off the top.
And that's what I always have to do every week, just dig and try to find some of this information. And it's so funny because before, preparing for this show, I went back and looked at some old Sports Illustrated and just some magazines, and you realize that in the 80s you had Ray Leonard, Hearns on the front of their magazines. You also had Ray Leonard on the front of like Time Magazine, Newsweek. You had Duran.
Oh yeah.
Hagler. I mean, this is amazing. You would never see this now.
No, especially in those lower,
yes.
Welterweight or middleweight. There's no way.
No way. But it's just amazing. So I'm just wondering, how you created this game knowing this. How has it, impacted? I mean, do you ever sometimes have any doubts or saying, well, I don't know, because you're not in this for, nobody's creating these games, not just your game, but in these games. They're not doing it for becoming a millionaire or anything.
Oh, no.
But go ahead.
I am in the business of trying to sell these games, and it's definitely a harder sell. I was unpleasantly surprised when Legends of Boxing 2 was released last year. When was that? Somewhere around May or June. And there was a lot of folks that did not come along from first edition.
Really?
And I was really disappointed. And really sales for the game in its first year have been not great, to be blunt. So, between that and the fact that the sport itself seems to be in a death spiral, it's hard to get motivated to produce more stuff for it when I know that I'll probably never. I might get, I don't know. I might get, partially compensated for it, but yeah, not at anything that you would call, even in the United States, you could call anything close to minimum wage.
Right.
When you start dividing it up by the hours.
Just the labor and all that. I can understand, and I have to tell you this, Gary, and I say this to you and all the other folks out there who have these games like this. But I'm purposely, I'm going to give you a little secret here about what I've been doing, but purposely, and I love your game, but I purposely put it online often, along with some of the other games, to let these gamers who may not know about the game see it, to see what I'm doing. And, and I want people to see that. And that's why I've been using the games as far as doing fantasy fights on this program, because I want to get the interest, like, hey, that fight was really great. I'd like to do that at home myself, and maybe I'll pick up this LOB game to see what it's all about. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Or it just reminds, a lot of guys are our age, guys in their 70s, 60s, 50s,
right?
Who grew up at a time when boxing was on the front of magazines, and it was front page news, and it was on network television where you could actually see it. Different times, and so when guys like us are playing these games and we're showing it on a YouTube video. You're talking about it in a podcast, doing write-ups and posting online. That's really the greatest form of advertising there is.
Yeah. And Gary, I'm still waiting for my check. I'm still waiting for my check, Gary.
Okay.
But anyway, that's what I'm doing. I really, want folks.
We'll have to talk about
Venmo
or something.
Yeah, something like that. Since I'm over in Thailand. But anyway, I want people to see the games, but also, there is a new game out there called, I think it's Undisputed. It's a video game.
Yeah.
But it's basically, as you know, of most video games, it's dexterity. So, if you got Mel Trumbo versus Muhammad Ali, if you're good at video games, you can destroy Ali easily.
Right.
So,
and that's for a couple guys sitting in the living room, and they're just having fun.
Right.
With each other. That doesn't sound like a simulation per se.
No, it's not. It brings up another question I have, and I know it would be hard to do this, but I'm going to throw it out here anyway. Have you considered trying to get your game, for instance, like Mexico boxing is huge, get it in Spanish, or marketing more in Britain where boxing is huge, or even in Japan, in Korea, South Korea, where boxing is really huge?
Okay.
Have you considered that?
I knew about the Mexican market, but yeah, I didn't really think. I wasn't sure how big it was in England. I mean, obviously, with Fury, having done well and everything, and Anthony Joshua also, and you've had
Wembley Stadium, 75,000 plus.
Wow,
to see those fights.
Yeah.
And even some of the minor, and I have to say, I know you don't like women's boxing, but even some of the women fights, they're drawing.
Mm-hmm.
It is huge.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's been over the past several years when I've gone to read reports of pay-per-views that I didn't buy, where it's not unusual for them to report that, hey man, this undercard match between these two women was the best fight on the card.
But looking at foreign countries, have you considered that? Like, maybe if there's a way you could do it. I know, it would take a lot to get translations and all of that, but have you, postage and all that or whatever, but have you even considered that, looking into those markets?
Well, I mean, right now I'm phasing out print product.
Right.
So I'm going all PDF. So really the game is available in all those markets right now. It's just a matter of like you say, getting the translation stuff done. Right. I've heard from, French Canadians. I've got people, kind of sprinkled across Europe, in Spain and Germany, France,
right.
Several in England, who enjoy Legends of Boxing. So, I know that there are some inroads over there. I haven't really looked at trying to get translations done. I don't know how that would work, other than me just cutting and pasting stuff into some app that could then translate it for me, and then I could put it back out there. I'm sure it would just be full of confusion.
It's and that's something I'm attempting to do with, now that I have the thanks Gary again for the PDFs, because I mentioned there's a number of gaming places I go to here in Thailand, and I have presented Stratomatic, my own game, my little home run derby game I have, and another baseball game, and just to see, and there is interest, and that's why I was happy to get the PDF, because I want to present Legends of Boxing to these gamers.
Yeah,
as well,
interesting. That
and
would
also as well as the soccer game. I want to present
nice.
it
Yeah.
because these gamers, and you got to keep in mind these are not just Thai folks. And the Thais I presented the other games to, they were very interested. But also, you got a lot of Brits over here, retired Brits, who are just love football, soccer, football. They love it,
Oh yeah.
and they're at these
Right.
gaming shops. And I want to present it to them as well, both games, just to see
Yeah.
what would
That'd
happen.
be, that would be fun. Yeah, let me know if you do that. I'd be curious to see if you got a reaction, what kind of reaction you got. So
Yeah, because it's a gold. I mean, it's a gold mine in this world, in this universe, for your game and other games, but for your game that you can tap in. But I know it's just hard when you're a one man person. It's hard. It's just really hard.
yeah, yeah. So far my strategy has been not to try to take that on, and if somebody wants it bad enough and they're not a native English speaker, then it's kind of up to them to take the PDF and do the translation on their end,
Right.
which is
Right.
probably I figure that's probably no worse really than what I would do trying to do it myself. But I can't afford somebody to translate it for me. I
No.
don't see where that would pay off.
No. Not. It's hard. It is definitely hard, but it can be done. And gaming, I can say over here in Thailand, and also the countries I mentioned as far as that love boxing, they are huge board gamers. Huge.
Mm,
These gaming events I go to, I mean, they're packed. What you would see in the U.S., they are packed.
that's great.
It's amazing. It's really amazing to see that. So the market is there, but it just hasn't been, in all these countries, it hasn't been tapped into, but it's there. And I'm going to do, with my show, I've been doing my little part, but also going to some of these gaming shops I go to and presenting it. We'll just see what happens. We'll just see what
Yeah,
happens with it.
yeah, that sounds
You
like
know.
fun. Hey, so let me ask you
Uh-huh.
uh, kind of a question. I was looking down. I have some notes of things to talk about for this topic of the the death spiral of boxing. And one thing I noticed, did you buy the was it a DAZN pay-per-view for the for Usyk Fury 2?
No, I don't do pay-per-view. I look at it,
Yeah.
and there's now I don't want to get in trouble with this, but there's
Yeah,
some way.
you don't have to go
I'll
into
whisper this to you. I'll whisper it. No one else listen to this, but yeah, I have my ways of getting some fights. But anyway,
All right. Okay. All right.
but
Yeah.
but I should say this too with the zone and what's going on in Saudi Arabia, what Ali Sheikh is doing over there as far as these fights. He
Hmm.
is really he has said he wants to get to the point where there's no pay-per-view. That he wants them online to look at these fights like it was done in the 70s and 80s. He wants people to
Well,
see.
good.
He's
I
reviving.
think.
He's
Yeah,
really
I think that'd be a
reviving
good.
boxing.
I think that'd be a good thing. Obviously in the U.S. market, the
Yes,
problem would be the time zone difference. But
that's the main thing that's coming up. A lot of folks are saying,
yeah,
well, I can't look at something like at 3 in the morning and all, but he's saying he's going to eventually make it so the U.S. market can look at these fights and look
huh?
at them and
Okay.
make them free. He wants these fighters, and that's why you're seeing these, like Usyk fighting Fury. All this going on now is because he's looking at the model of the MMA as far as a UFC. He's saying
Hmm.
these fighters don't mind having a loss on their record. They're talking. The Saudis are talking about the fact that, there's nothing wrong with that. And he always uses Muhammad Ali as a perfect example. Ali is considered by many the greatest fighter of all time, but he lost 5 fights.
Yeah.
He had no problem with that. And he talks about, and I agree with him on this, that you got folks out there that want to emulate Floyd Mayweather Jr. to make sure that their record is never tarnished.
No.
You can't, no.
That's not the way to go.
No. And a lot of these
The-
younger
these
fighters are
fighters
trying
need
to
to
do
be.
that. They're trying to
Yeah,
do
they
that.
need to be.
And you got to lose.
These fighters, yeah, these fighters need to be seen more often instead of fighting. Especially once you get ranked and you're pushing toward a title challenge. You can't fight once every 6 months. The public forgets about you.
Oh yeah.
And so back in the day, you saw fighters' careers going upwards of, well, I mean, some of them were ridiculous. 150, 200, 300 fights even.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, those days are never coming back. But it would be good, to see fighters be more active and try to at least fight 4 or 5 times a year instead of twice.
And that's what they're trying to do over in Saudi Arabia. They are really doing that. And a lot of these fighters who I can say 2 years ago, you would have never saw Usyk versus Fury, for instance. I mean, everything I was saying is like, oh, these guys will never get together because they don't, the paperwork, all of this, no one wants to get together. But that Saudi Arabian money has pushed it. And
that will override everything. It will make if it isn't doing so already, it's going to make most of these sanctioning bodies completely irrelevant. Well, and so about the zone. So a point that I was going to get to is I noticed, because I was fishing around, I wanted to see what that pay-per-view went for. Did you see what the price was on it?
Oh, it's ridiculous. You're talking about over $75. It's a joke. It's awful.
Well, actually, so check this out. The up until recently, I was here in the States. I presume the price is the same, currency adjusted around the world, but up until recently, pay-per-views were going for typically $89, especially if it was through ESPN or HBO or somebody like that, Showtime. Well, this pay-per-view, the Usyk Fury 2 pay-per-view, was listed at $40.
And that's the Saudis. He said he would reduce with the goal of eventually having these free. So he did that. He reduced that.
What you're saying is making more sense, because I was wondering why that was the case.
Yeah, it's all him.
Why is this? Why are we basically half price now as to what we were just a couple years ago?
Yeah, that's the goal. That's what he's doing now, and that hopefully, like he said, it will be free eventually. But he wants everyone to, he wants to revive boxing. That's why he purchased Ring Magazine. In Ring Magazine, he said that the rankings now will be based on Ring Magazine, not all this WBC, WBA. That's what the number one ranking is going to be, Ring Magazine. So that
I was pretty happy over the past. Well, it's probably been going on for longer than I would care to think, but at least it seems like the past 10 years or so, a lot of times when you see, the fighter in the ring who is truly considered the champ at that weight class, whether he's got, one particular sanctioned belt or whether he's got 4.
Right.
Most of the time, those guys now prominently display the Ring Magazine belt.
Yeah, that's it.
Because that's the one, right?
That's the lineage of history. That's it. And that's what the Saudis are doing that now. And that's what you got to look at first. Ring Magazine, their rankings. And that's the thing. So it's, I think by the end of this year, boxing is going to, in the U.S., I have to say the U.S. because it's already big everywhere else, like I was saying, but boxing is going to nudge a little. It's going to nudge a little, and people are going to recognize.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like in the 70s and 80s, but it's going to be nudging.
Well, and also, I think, all that Saudi money has a real opportunity here, because unlike like we've seen what's happening with golf, for example.
Oh yes, I was going to bring that up. Yes,
the PGA and the Live Tour. Well, with the Saudi money, I mean that's huge, and they're certainly going to, and they already have lured a lot of great players, big name players over. But you're still battling against decades of momentum and recognition and branding, with the PGA. So,
and you may not know this, but the PGA, they were like balking about all of this 2 years ago. Like, oh no, the Saudi money, we're not going to do that. Last year, they made an agreement. This is all one golfing unit now.
Okay. Wow.
This is something. It's amazing. But Gary, we have 9 minutes. I mean, it's just like we're warming up again. And I'll have
I know, right?
So I want to get to what, because I didn't ask you this one. I want to ask you this real quickly. Is there any game that you want to create that you've thought about to add to your roster of games?
Well, I'm working on one now. It's called Round Trip Baseball.
Oh, all right.
And it's going really well. I've had some time here in the past 2 weeks to really put some hours into it.
Oh man!
And I'm pretty excited about this. It's
if you need together. A tester, I'll be happy to test it. Anyway, anything I can.
Okay, do. You're in for baseball. Well, most of us are in this hobby. If you talk to anybody, and I'm who's been in this hobby for any amount of time, really, baseball was probably their gateway drug.
Yeah,
and
Stratomatic.
And they probably over the years now have acquired at least 3 or 4 baseball games that they like.
Right.
So, with Round Trip, I'm not trying to compete with those games. I'm trying to find, another niche within the hobby that I think is underserved.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that one because, it's like buying a car, anything, or eating different foods. It's not. I don't look at it as competition. In the olden days, it's like Apple versus Stratomatic, but now it's like this is a golden age of just gaming, not only in sports gaming, but everything. So if you have a different take on baseball, boxing, anything, bring it on. I mean, it's really great. People are doing it.
There are guys in this hobby that baseball is all they play. They might have a couple other games, but they might have 20 or 30 baseball games. And half the time they'll tell you, well, there's about a dozen of these that I like about equally, but for different reasons.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you were here right now, you would see on my desk, I have the PDF of your game, Legends of Boxing, but also I got beside it Inside Pitch. To the right of me, I got Stratomatic. On my shelf up here, I have Title Bout. I mean, I have a variety of games, But we're going to be closing in a minute. The thing I didn't ask you before, I want to ask you this: what are your goals for not only Legends of Boxing, but your, Stone Mountain in general? What do you want the public to get out of all your games?
Woo! That's a big question. I guess in the simplest sense, I really kind of just want to use Stone Mountain Press. It's basically a way to justify. I've got this mean creative streak,
right?
and game design is something I've always done. And when I don't do it, when I don't engage with it, I'm not as happy as a person. And so it's something I feel like I need to do. And right now I'm in that gap between my old career and Social Security, right? And so I'm just looking for some supplemental income that will get me that will close that gap. And once I start claiming Social Security, then I don't know if I'll keep Stone Mountain Press going or not.
Oh, you better.
We'll see.
if I have to buy it myself and make sure it stays, but anyway. But yeah, we got 3 minutes to go now. I'm gonna have to have you back on, not next week, but we gotta get you back on here again to get an update about the baseball game. And what do you as far as boxing? What you've already said it, but to sum it up, what do you see for the future of Legends of Boxing? What do you want to see?
Oh, well, I mean, if I had the time, so the first thing is the catalog idea for Legends of Boxing 2, in which we present all the fighters with all the fighter summaries that kind of talks about their style and why they're rated the way they're rated and all this other stuff. That format didn't really go over as well as I thought it would.
And I don't know why. Oh God, we only have 2 minutes, but I don't know why, because that's a book in itself. That could be a book, what you did.
Well, so I'm looking at splitting the difference. What people appear to want is cards. They want fighter cards they can hold in their hand and shuffle them and do tournaments and do random matchups that way. And I understand that. That's cool. So I'm in the process of reformatting a lot of that, the information from the core catalog. I'm representing that in a card format. On top of that, I want to add 200 more heavyweights and release one big set of 300 heavyweight fighter cards.
Oh my goodness! That'll be great, man. That'll be great. And give it, man, we only have a minute. I got to get you back on, but tell folks how they can reach you.
Okay. Gary at stonemountain.press, or just go on the web and find the website at stonemountain.press, and that'll take you to my online store. Basically, I don't have a deep website like I used to have. Instead, it's basically just an online storefront.
Nothing wrong with that.
We're also on Discord. We have an SMP server on Discords where we do chats, live chats, if you happen to catch me online.
All right. And Gary, we got to go now. I'm sorry. Okay. But we're going to get you back on here, man. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much again for great games that you have. And we'll be talking later. Thanks so much,
All right.
Gary.
Well, thank you for the time.
All right. Yeah, really enjoyed talking to Gary. We're going to definitely have him back on. Not next week, but we will have him on again. Great guy to talk to. So happy to talk to him. So happy to have his games. Really enjoy those games. And we, from time to time, we'll do interviews on here. So if you're a creator of a boxing game, and I've had some other creators on here in the past, like Anthony Lee Crooks with Glory Days Boxing, and some other folks, if you're author of a book about boxing, if you're a boxer yourself, because we've had boxers on here over the years, including my buddy DeVero Williamson in Denver. So if you just give me a holler. Where you can listen to the program, be it on YouTube, on KUHS, on iTunes, wherever you listen, just drop me a line, Facebook, wherever it is, X, and just say, I wanted to be on your program. I want, you to have these two folks fight. And also, if you want to contribute to the program, go to my Patreon site, Ringside Fantasy Fights and News. Ringside Fantasy Fights and News, and donate what you can. $1 a month, $1 a week, whatever you can do so we can get better equipment, expand some things on here. But it's all up to you because it's your program. And before we get out of here, because Gary was talking about the future of boxing, what he sees right now, someone who I had on a program, not this program, but another program was doing in Denver way back when, Thomas Hauser, author, has written many books about Muhammad Ali. He just recently wrote an article in the Guardian newspaper, and Jessica is going to read what he says about boxing in that article. So take it away, Jessica.
This article was written by Thomas Hauser for The Guardian. On January 14, 2025, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh posted a message on social media that read, "Make boxing great again." That's a noble goal. And the Saudi Arabian General Entertainment Authority has signaled its willingness to spend billions of dollars to achieve it. But we should not lose sight of the things that made boxing great in the past. Boxing was great when big fights were contested regularly in major cities and fans poured into arenas and stadiums to watch them. And boxing was great when small fight clubs flourished with the best fighters from local neighborhoods fighting each other. There have been reports that Riyadh Season is planning a boxing league for young prospects in conjunction with TKO. League fights should be competitive matchups, contested in locales that the prospects represent. And major Riyadh Season fights should be held in cities throughout the world, as Riyadh Season has already done in Los Angeles and London, not just in Saudi Arabia. Boxing was great when there was one champion in each weight division and fans knew who the champions were. Boxing was also great when the heavyweight championship of the world was the most coveted title in sports, and the only way the champion could lose his title was in the ring. Riyadh Season is now subsidizing the world's sanctioning bodies by paying hundreds of millions of dollars in purses, which are cut for sanctioning fees, and millions of dollars more in direct sponsorship fees. It should continue its effort to unify titles. For example, Alexander Usyk v. Tyson Fury and Artur Beterbiev vs. Dmitry Bivol, and decline to do business with any entity that contributes to unfairly stripping a champion of his belt, as the IBF did with Usyk. Boxing was great when fighters shook hands at weigh-ins instead of cursing at and shoving each other. Riyadh Season should impose substantial fines for misconduct at fight-related events. Boxing was great when the ring was empty during fighter introductions, except for the ring announcer, the referee, the fighters, and the fighters' chief seconds. Fans don't want to see sanctioning body officials, hangers-on, and other non-combatants in the ring before fights. Riyadh Season should keep them out. Boxing was great when fighters trained diligently without the use of steroids and other performance-enhancing drugs to gain an unfair advantage over their opponents. Riyadh Season should require and fund year-round VADA testing for all fighters who fight under its banner. Boxing was great when fans knew what a skilled professional fighter was and didn't confuse legitimate professionals with celebrity imposters. Riyadh Season should avoid bouts that feature fighters whose primary credential is their social media presence and marketing potential. Boxing was great when fights were shown on free television and fans didn't have to pay a day's wages to watch them. Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund is reportedly close to finalizing the purchase of a substantial interest in DAZN. That will give it added leverage in determining how much fans are required to pay to see big fights. Apologists for pay-per-view say that too many fights on free television killed boxing. That's nonsense. The flow of professional and college football on free television in the United States didn't kill football. To the contrary, it elevated football into a colossus. Boxing was great when there were knowledgeable writers who wrote honestly about the sport and business without fear of retribution. Riyadh Season should end the policy of denying accreditation to responsible journalists simply because they have written articles that the powers that be don't like. Writers should not have to choose between giving up their credibility or their credential. The Ring, which Turki Al-Sheikh bought last year, should welcome writers with divergent points of view, and the Ring ratings should be determined by an impartial panel of experts who fairly rank all fighters, not just those aligned with Riyadh Season. Boxing was great when tradition was respected and skills were more important than hype. Simply saying that a fighter is great doesn't make them great. Saying that a fight is a historic matchup doesn't make it a historic matchup. Riyadh Season should avoid disrespecting great fighters from the present and past by watering down the standard for greatness. I'm not looking at the past through rose-colored glasses. I know there were abuses back then. Black fighters were often denied equal opportunity. Organized crime controlled wide swaths of the business. But Turki Al-Sheikh has the power to set goals and implement them in a way that's consistent with the things that made boxing great. I hope he chooses to do so.
I wholeheartedly agree. I'm going to try to see if I can get Thomas on here because I'd like him to elaborate more on that and talk about some other things, what he feels about what's going on in boxing right now, his future, some of his past, his recollections with Muhammad Ali. I'm going to work on that because I did talk to him earlier, I was about to say earlier this month, but it was actually last month because we're in the new year now, and about another issue. So we'll try to get him on here. But I hope you enjoyed the program today. And again, please, if you can, we need you to be a Patreon of the program. It is growing, but we need you out there. So just go to Ringside Fantasy Fights and News on my Patreon site, patreon.com, and just join whatever you can do. But anyway, I just want to thank you for listening today. I enjoy doing these shows, and we're going to do billions more of them. But anyway, and we're going to have Gary W. Brown back on again. And please support his game. Support his game. I should say games. And go on that website, Stone Mountain Press, and check out what he has. I think you'll really like it. But again, this is Greg Rashid. Go in love and go in peace. And as I always say, when you wake up in the morning, get up. Get out of that bed. Look in that mirror. Hug yourself and say, I love myself. If you're sight impaired, get up. Hug yourself and say, I love myself. Because if you don't love yourself, you don't love anything. You don't love, you don't want to be bothered with anything. You just don't care. But you got to love yourself first. And once you love yourself, you'll have a better view of the world, the universe, the galaxy. You'll just see things better. So love yourself and do what you can in your community, in your prefecture, in your rural area, wherever you are in this universe, on that satellite, wherever you are. Do something to help a young person in need, a senior who may need some help, might see a wounded animal or something, help it out, whatever you can do. Clean up your community. You see trash on the ground, pick it up. Don't wait for somebody else. You pick it up. But do what you can to help, make this place a better place. We're all on this sphere together. We're here for a limited amount of time, then we move on. So do what you can. But again, this is Greg Rashid. Go in love and go in peace. We'll see you next time on the Shoulder Roll Virtual Boxing Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in. Please remember to like, comment, share and subscribe to this channel. Thanks and have a great day.